Yep.
Hello, everybody.
What's up?
So we're back with yet another movie review, and
Boy, don't sound so enthusiastic about it.
well, I have mixed feelings.
Yet
about this
another movie review that you were forced to go to.
Shut up, Sean.
I feel so bad that you've had to fling yourself into the movie-going public so that you could laboriously deliver the arduous task of speaking about
Are you
film. I've got more, but you go ahead.
Well, we saw Murder on the Orient Express, and like I said, I have mixed feelings about this.
Now, you said this was your first exposure to it.
Yeah, I've never seen the original or read the book, and it was just, it was a good movie, but it wasn't fantastic, and it wasn't terrible. I just kind of feel like, meh.
I have issues with it, mostly because of the character development and some of the things that happen in it. But you go ahead, since you had a positive experience, and I'll end us on a negative note.
Overall, I like the characters. I like the plot. It moved along, but it was slow. But it was a hell of a lot better than Snowman.
Right. Well, that's kind of... I'm sort of in that same boat, but Snowman was at least pretty to look at the entire way through.
Yeah, they shot this thing from some weird goddamn angles.
Not even that. This movie, there's a lot of CG usage.
Yeah, the train is obviously CG every fucking time.
Most all, because there are points where he walks right up against it and it's kind of obvious they have an actual set there.
Yeah.
But, no, this movie kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I am not going to say I am an expert in Agatha Christie's writings. I'm truly not. I have, however, read some of her works, and one of hers is the Hercule Poirot novel, novella, short story, I'm not sure how you would classify it, Murder on the Orient Express. It's a really good book.
Since you've read the book and seen the movie, what are the differences? You said there was a couple of them.
There's a few. One of the big ones that we'll notice immediately for anybody who's read the book is several characters are condensed into other characters. The Doctor and Mr. Armstrong's friend in the military were condensed into one person. Initially, the Doctor was a secondary third party outside of Poirot's friend from the train.
So there was more than 12 of them?
No, there were 12.
Okay.
It's just that there were other characters outside of the murderers.
Okay, so there were 12 murderers, but then you had other characters.
Spoilers, by the way, everyone's the murderer. Yeah, there are other characters outside of the suspects, we'll say. This acts like these 12 people were the only people on this fucking train, but it's jam-packed full of other people's luggage, but you never see anybody else.
Yeah, even you got up to go to the bathroom. They said, "Oh, nope, train's full. We don't have a spot." But the conductor knew Poirot. I can't talk today. And they're like, "Nope, we'll clean a space for him."
Right. Well, that was one of the things. He's friends with...
But they said it was booked, and we only saw 12 people. That...
Right.
For 4 cars, no, sir. That's not a full fucking train.
In the book, they kind of skirt around that by saying that the murder suspect could not have gone beyond these cars because of reasons I forget. It's been a couple of days.
Environment or something.
Probably. That's another thing that's changed. In the movie, they're stuck over this chasm on a rickety-ass bridge, and they say that the murderer could not have escaped because where would he go? But then we see a guy try and run away immediately, or in the final 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
and it shows he could have run somewhere if there was a guy. In the book, a snowbank builds up, and they kind of accidentally plow into it, and they get stuck, and it keeps snowing, and it snows basically up to the windows and the doors, blocking the train in. So there was physically no way the murderer could have gotten off the train.
Okay. That would have made a lot more sense.
It would have. It also would have made more sense if they had mentioned some of the things in the movie. They talk about the Countess's Hausfrau, I guess is the correct terminology for it in this. He compliments her on her cooking initiatives, but they never actually mention her being a cook. It's for me, it was the devil is in the details with this, and a whole lot of little things added up to one big thing for me. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the end of this. Do we want to give recommendations real quick, since we're going spoilers?
I'd say catch a matinee, because despite problems with the movie, the actors fucking kill it. It's not their fault.
I
there was a bunch of them that did really good.
The vast majority of them, yes. I would say, I hate to say this, but I would probably say Netflix at the best.
I'd say probably either a matinee or Netflix.
Okay.
Depending on which one.
Well, there you have it. As someone who read the book and enjoys the book, I would recommend Netflix so you can move around and do stuff during the portions where you know what's going to happen is happening.
If you like murder mysteries, matinee. If not, then rent it.
Yeah.
Because, I've always liked murder mysteries, so that's probably why I thought it was a little bit better.
Right. Okay, so, spoilers from this part out in 3, 2, 1. Hercule Poirot is not a fucking beacon of justice. I'm sorry, this is something that bugged me the entire way through. He was talking about, there's the truth and there's, what people say. And I am the one who tells the truth. Always. And I'm like, that was never Poirot. He would bring people to justice, yes. But he understood that justice worked in a variable shade of gray. As with this story. He put the pieces together as they went. Which is another problem I have with this movie, that you have knowledge Poirot is not privy to, and therefore you have to wait for Poirot to catch up, but then you have to try and wonder what the hell's going through his head when he's a couple steps ahead of everybody, and it creates this large disconnect because in the book, Poirot is very much the POV character. You learn with him, you understand with him, and when he makes the connection as you do.
Yeah.
So to remove that is to remove a key element of the story. Another problem is Poirot understood that people are more complex than a black and white image. There is not an absolute moral yes or no to anything.
Yeah. I honestly wish we had gotten just a little bit more of Johnny Depp's character. I didn't mind him. He played an asshole pretty fucking good.
Well, Johnny Depp, so...
But also...
No, all of the actors were fine in this, honestly. I have some issues with Poirot himself, the actor, and how he's dressed up. Christoph Waltz. Mostly in how he looks absolutely nothing like Poirot. Poirot is supposed to be a slightly shorter, stout little man with a very trimmed mustache. It's not this big, zany thing that spreads across his face like this giant fungus that's growing out of his nose and attempting to swallow his entire upper mouth. That was kind of my first big thing where I was like, provided they do a good story, I'll look past it, but unfortunately they really didn't. I'm very tired right now. I've been up since last night doing a job, and then we were like, hey, let's go see a movie. I was like, alright, fine. And then this turned out to be a really, really long and boring movie. Because there's really no tension with anything. As I said, with the book, you learn with the character and you understand as he understands. So, when you have information either he is not privy to or he has information you're not privy to, it creates a big audience disconnect and you do not engage with the character as you're supposed to in this.
I think I thought he would have, thought remorse or like he would have felt guilty for what happened because the dude offered him money to protect him.
Right.
And he was like, nope, no thanks, I'm good.
Well,
and the same night, he's fucking murdered.
Well, again, there's a little more cleverness to it. In the movie, I knew we were in for a problem when he looks over at a clock and sees what time it is after he hears a noise from Johnny Depp's room. This undermines a key factor for when he finds the watch in Johnny Depp's room. The watch is deliberately smashed to mislead Poirot.
Yeah.
So to create a false time frame. However, his time frame now lines up with the exact same time frame that happens. So this misinformation is no longer misinformation, and it's not a dead lead, like it was supposed to be. Mm. They progress similarly throughout the story, him finding the notes and learning who everybody is in relation to everyone else. Like I say, they combine some characters and they tweak some characters. For whatever reason, they felt like they had to change the guy from one agency. It was... I don't understand why they changed it to the Pinkerton Detective Agency. Because in the book, it's not the Pinkerton Detective Agency. It's something entirely different. But nobody who goes to see this nowadays is going to know who the hell the Pinkerton Detective Agency was in the first goddamn place. So why bother to change it? Secondly, I don't know why they figured they had to...
Who was like... Out of all... You said all the characters were tweaked a little bit, most of them. Which one just had like a complete difference? Or did any of them... Were any of them
a complete difference I would have to,
out of character?
Not until like the very, very end. But the one that kind of rubbed me the wrong way the hardest was Willem Dafoe's character. In the book, he plays a typewriter salesman, or a typewriter ribbon salesman, I should say, who's on the train and he's part of this other detective agency that's investigating Johnny Depp's character, Calcetti. But he's not known as Calcetti at that point, he's known as somebody else. Well, he was offered by Calcetti, some money to make sure that he doesn't get got, essentially. But he knows him from this other thing. But you don't find that out until later.
Yeah.
So he's playing this other guy, just trying to be kind of low-key. Be like, I'm a typewriter ribbon salesman. You want some typewriter ribbon? I'll get your ass full of typewriter ribbon stuff. In this, for whatever reason, he's a faux Nazi.
Yeah.
And he all but goose steps down the halls, shouting the appraisals of the superior races. And it's like, this doesn't have a point here. All it is to say, them 1930s, them was some racist times.
Well, also, like, we were talking about it in the car, how no one really, like, accused anybody else.
That was another thing.
Except him.
At one point, no, Josh Gad's character, Calcetti's, Johnny Depp's secretary, accuses the Italian guy. That doesn't happen in the book, because in the book, if somebody accuses somebody else of the crime, then that all falls apart, because then they're investigating them and they're saying, hey, this guy fingered you, and then the other guy is going to say, well, guess what? He was also in on this. And it all falls apart.
Yeah.
And because the way this ends, it doesn't make any sense for him to try and implicate the Italian guy.
Oh, man.
All of this culminates, and from there it flows in the basic structure of the book, where he starts piecing together who did what, who related to who, and how it related to this other case that happened a long time ago, the Armstrong case, where a young girl was kidnapped from a fairly wealthy but fairly well-standing family, and was later killed after the parents paid the ransom. Well, it turns out the kidnapper is Johnny Depp's character. And from there, each person on the train in first class has a relationship to the family Armstrong in some way, shape, or form. And each person has some kind of tie to Calcetti ruining both their lives and the Armstrongs' lives. Because they had a really good thing going. They were well-liked, they had good standing, the Armstrongs were nice people towards them, they helped them when they needed help, and they all liked who they were. And so when somebody this evil got away with this heinous crime, In the book, it's explained that he bribed judges and officials to get a not guilty sentence when it was pretty much blatantly obvious that he was guilty after they had the evidence.
Yeah.
And the mother died in childbirth, as did her child after going into premature labor, and the Armstrong household head, Mr. Armstrong, I should say. I'm very tired. Did I mention that? Mr. Armstrong, I want to say hangs himself, but for whatever reason they decided to say he shot himself in this. I'm not sure on that one. It might have been shot himself. It's a minor technical thing. But all the while, these clues have been planted throughout the case to throw Poirot off track. A woman in a red silk kimono running around. Everybody talks about this diminutive train steward with a high womanly voice that is never seen. Nobody knows what it is. None of the staff know him. And so there's this unexpected person who isn't supposed to be there, and a dead man. With a whole bunch of things that all point away from everybody else. But they don't point enough. And so from there, Poirot was able to deduce who did what when it happened. And from there, you are engaged and asked to think, to try and understand what happened with this. In the book.
Yeah.
In the movie, they just all go, there's the clues, here's some interviewing, and here's the end. Oh, and an action scene. Because we need action. People can't just sit there and think. God forbid they engage their brains. No, the biggest out-of-character point comes at the very end with Poirot himself. As I said, Poirot is not this immutable justice seeker who says justice is justice and right is right and wrong is wrong. He understood that there were the shades of gray to factor in, and so when he discovers what has happened, he presents his friend on the train with the two options. Either A, we had an assassin pose as a rail worker and he escaped. That is what happened. There are some things that do not add up, but coincidence can be coincidence. Things can happen. Option B, everyone who had a means and a desire to see Calcetti dead killed Calcetti. Now, there's a very important distinction here. In the book, they have it to where he is murdered in a dark room. The lights are out. This is done so that no one person can be implicated directly as the murderer. No one truly knows who dealt the killing blow.
They said something about that at the end. I think it was the same scenario.
No, they do, but they do it with the lights on and everybody's deliberately going, ah! 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 And it's just like, I understand you're trying to wrap this up for people who can't think above, like, 2 steps ahead. Or even 1 step ahead, I should say, at this point, but... And again, it's not a real necessary thing, except as a moral standpoint for the characters. They understood that justice was not served. This was not a revenge motivated, not solely revenge. This was also to see justice done for a crime that had been committed and had been let go by a flawed system, or at least flawed by their perspectives, because so much had been hurt and taken away from everyone. So when they do this in the dark. Again, so that no one person would have the conscience of being, I'm the one who killed him. Rather, they all sit as a jury, which is something that he notes, 12 people all lined up, similar to how a jury would be, all with ties to a criminal.
Makes sense.
And from there, he's able to deduce what happened. The book is great. I strongly recommend people read the book. If seeing this means more people go read these, great.
like I said, it's not the worst book adaptation I've ever seen.
No, far away from the worst book adaptation. I'll say that. No, my big issue comes at the very end where Poirot is confronting everybody and laying out the scenarios. He then lays a gun down on the table and says, if you want to do the first one, you're going to have to shoot me. Because I will not keep my mouth shut about this thing that happened. And it's like, I get what you're trying to do. Say that he has this devout sense of binding to the law and that right is right and wrong is wrong. But again, the character wasn't like that. And in the end, he ends up lying anyway and telling them that it was the man they couldn't find. It's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. This is what happened. So it's like, why did you even bother having that scene? Like I say, this movie is mostly fine. But if you read the book and you enjoyed it, there's going to be a lot of things that dig at you. Or at least they did at me.
I think I'm probably going to have to go read the book now.
You should. It's a very good book. As should you!
I think that's... I got nothing more to say, really. You kind of just said it all.
This adventure and more can be found at your local library.
Nice shot.
Thank you. I like to try and promote the library when I can. It's a fun place.
Well, I guess that wraps us up for this one.
Yeah, sorry it was a little negative there, but like I say, the cinematography and everything was pretty good for the most part. I would have liked to have it a little more contained, kind of be like a one-room show, because essentially that should be your main focus, is this powder keg of tension of everybody being confined to a small area.
Yeah.
I think kind of like Snowpiercer, but a little less lower stakes. Little lower stakes than Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
But you should have that kind of attention boiling through the movie. And it, rather than boil, it just kind of simmers at best.
I'd say, this, like I said, it's kind of just was meh for me. Like, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. I would probably, like I said, matinee or Netflix.
Well, you're no help.
Sorry, you're the one who read the book, not me.
Well, whose fault is that?
I didn't even know it was a book until you told me like 3 weeks ago.
I gave you 3 weeks to read a short story.
I will Google and read a short story.
You can look up an audio dramatization on YouTube. It's like 2 hours long. You can do it while you're jamming out, listening to, doing stuff, like cleaning the house, or washing clothes, or dishes, or... Granted, I do most of those things anyway, but... I don't know, you can listen to it while you jerk off?
Shut up.
I don't know what you do.
Oh, dude, you're killing me.
You could sell your semen, I think.
Stop now. Just on that note, we'll see you guys next time.
Visit your local library and sell your semen today.
Visit your local library, and we'll come back here next time and go over to Sean's channel and watch us play Fractured Butthole. But until then, we will see you guys later.